Hey guys, it's Rachel. I'm really sorry I didn't make a video last week. I still have the remnants of it. I had a really bad cold, and I can't believe it because I had gastroenteritis like not that long ago either, and I never get poorly. So that's why you didn't get a video from me. Excuse the what's going on with the hair, we're not quite sure. Anyway, this week we're going to be looking at the process of recovery, and specifically we are going to be looking at various challenges that we personally came up against, and also the struggles, but the ways in which we found strength also. So it's kind of difficult really, because everybody's story is going to be very different, I guess. And I've spoken about what's gone on for me a number of times and spoken about my journey, and in some ways the very difficult things I maybe haven't been as open with, and that's not purposeful. That isn't because I specifically wanted to hide that from you or from anyone else. It just occurred to me today when I was thinking about making the video, and I was thinking about what was particularly difficult for me. Obviously, with anorexia, there is a huge fear when it comes to weight gain. Hang on, let me just do this. And that in itself was obviously an incredible struggle. I've spoken before about the fact that I dealt with anorexia. I didn't deal with any other form of eating disorder, so I'm not really one to talk about that, and I don't mean it offensively if I don't bring that up while I'm talking to you guys. It's just that this is about my specific experience. So obviously the weight gain is constantly in your mind. You know, whenever I would think about trying to get better, that was the one thing that would just go straight in front of me. And obviously what I learned, and I know now as a fact, is that is just like it's like a mask. It's a facade. It isn't a real. I want to say that it is an emotion, and it is something that, you know, the fear of weight gain is something very powerful. However, it is masking something else, and that, even saying that now, that feels very hard to say, because that felt so real at the time. So I had that very strong fear. It was only as I recovered and as I took myself further that I realised that the fears that I had of weight gain were actually very much wrapped up in the rape that had happened to me. And so I ended up with a situation whereby I could begin the initial weight gain, and this happened numerous times, and I would hit a brick wall. I would just completely freak out and not feel able to go back. And whilst that happens in recovery anyway, I would get to a weight and I would freak out, and then I would try to move further forward, and I'd maybe drop back a bit, and all of those safe weights would start to fall away because I was gaining weight. There was a certain part, a certain weight, a certain shift in my body that was incredibly difficult. And as I've said, that took quite a lot of therapy to realise that. It took a lot of self-reflection. It took a lot of really being honest with myself and talking very honestly with my therapist about what I'd been through. And so the fear then was of being a healthy weight, because that was attached to when the rapes happened. So in my head, I had, this happened, you were healthy when that happened, your weight was this, you were this size, you had this body, you were this shape, you're this size, it's not happened. So my logic in my head went, well, as long as you get to there, that's when you're going to be at risk. And the anorexia for me was very much about disappearing and wanting to go away. I didn't want to become more obvious. I didn't want to become this woman that represented something, which ironically today is something I'm incredibly proud of. And for those of you watching this, that is something you too can be incredibly proud of, whether you're male or female. I'm proud of being the woman I am today. And whilst most of the time I look at pictures of myself or I see myself or what have you, and I'm just like, when am I going to be a proper grown-up? I know that emotionally, mentally, that I have that maturity and I have that sense of security within myself. Obviously, I don't always feel brilliant about myself. I don't always feel great. But the struggle for me was specifically allowing myself to be who I am. And that was the hardest thing. And that's what took the most work. And the parts that I feel incredibly proud of are not only getting myself to a healthy weight and what that held for me, but also for standing up for myself. It is very, very easy to attack people when you put yourself out there. Hence why I didn't make videos for quite a while. I'm not as active on my blog or on Facebook because I think that people find it very, very easy to pull people down as opposed to seeing their positive attributes. And so as long as I'm out here, I'm going to probably be criticised and put down and all the rest of it. But what I'm learning, and okay, I'm 31 now, what I am learning is that it's okay for that to happen. And that doesn't mean that I am all of those things. It is about saying, well, do you know what? That's your opinion. And that's what you're thinking. And that's what you're feeling. And for whatever reason, I'm sorry. But I have to be who I am. Is certainly, for me, and in my opinion, the most difficult thing you're going to come up against. Often we are perhaps afraid of who we are. We're afraid of our capabilities even. We're afraid of our strengths. We're afraid of anything positive. We're also then afraid of anything negative. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of all of these things that come from putting yourself back out there in life with regards to studying, work, whatever it is that you're going to do or are doing. And it's hard to be honest with people. It's hard to say, well, look, this is what's going on for me, because, you know, it can be scary to feel like you're going to be judged. And some of those struggles are obviously to do with identity. There's things that people struggle with massively in terms of identity. See it time and time again, and it's just so sad as well, as people trying to come to terms with their sexuality, people being afraid of their sexuality, people keeping it to themselves because they're scared of what other people are going to say, people only telling our person and then going off and doing what society tells us we should do. And that's something that really does need to change. And I think for me, that I was never particularly aware of my sexuality, and it was only as I recovered that I maybe discovered that, and maybe that was because I was allowing myself to be who I am. So those are some of the difficulties I've had to deal with. You know, coming to terms with a woman's body and connecting that to the abuse, and then, of course, you know, dealing with anxieties of identity. Putting yourself back out there in life when you've been poorly, it can be very, very difficult to not start again. But if you've been somebody who has, say, worked and then you are still poorly at that time, it can be very difficult to then sort of come after a few years and say, do you know what, actually I've been struggling this whole time and I'm trying to get better. And that is a really, really brave thing to do, and it is a very difficult thing to do, but there is no shame in what you're dealing with. And ultimately, the more people who know, okay, that gives you a bigger scope in terms of people judging you or being nasty to you. It also gives you a bigger group of people who can be supportive to you. So I would encourage you to try to be open. I would encourage you to allow yourself to be who you are. And that's what I mean by being open to who you are. And allowing yourself to be that person, and not not letting what other people say to you bring you down, because that's going to impact your recovery, because it's going to make you feel like what you're not doing is good enough, not good enough.